minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Second reading of Bill 26, an act to amend the Photo Card Act 2008 and the Vital Statistics Act with respect to fee waivers for photo cards and birth certificates.
Ms. Kiwala has moved second reading of Bill 26, an act to amend the Photo Card Act and the Vital Statistics Act with respect to fee waiver for photo cards and birth certificates. Pursuant to Standing Order 98, the member has 12 minutes for her presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am proud today to rise for the debate of my private member's bill, Bill 26, Fee Waivers Act. And I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the tremendous efforts of Carla McGrath, the Director of Queen's University's Family Law Clinic. Among those who know her, Carla is a problem solver, and her dedication to this private member's bill idea is no different. She rallied the support of her students, including Olga Mishchuk, who also played a critical role in the development of this PMB. Thank you, both of you, for your dedication, your hard work, and quite literally, your relentless enthusiasm. This bill was inspired by a group of Queen's Law students and faculty in collaboration with the Pro Bono Students Canada, or PBSC. PBSC is a national award-winning program that operates across Canada with chapters at all 8 law schools in Ontario. Today, we are joined by Carolina Cuevas, Nikki Gershbain, Alison Symington, Carolyn Tarjan, Amy Willis, and Daniel Simonian. Also, I would like to thank Judy McGrath, Oscar McCarson, and Sydney Jane McCarson for being here today. As always, I would like to express my utmost gratitude to my EA, Anna Majetic, who is also joining us in the gallery, Jagtarang Singh, the Legislative Council, and staff from the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services for all of your input and support. I would also like to thank our Attorney General, Yasser Naqvi, for his visits to Kingston and his encouragement to the Queen's legal aid students to get involved in solving a societal problem. That's one of the great things about this bill. It's very constituent-based, and it very much reflects the work of a dedicated group of individuals in my riding of Kingston and the Islands who are interested in making a positive impact in the world, making this world a better place for all. I'd like to encourage everyone to pause for a moment and reflect on all of the daily activities in which we require a piece of government-issued ID. This is something many people tend not to think about and probably take for granted. Among other activities, government-issue ID is necessary for driving, getting a bank account, buying a house, and traveling beyond our borders. ID is also among the documents that are required to obtain a name change or marriage license. You will need it to apply to college or go to the library. And if you're homeless or between housing and living in a shelter, you will need that ID card to access the internet, perhaps at a library to keep in touch with family or update a service provider online. How many times have we heard in this House, access it online? This is something that is a problem if you have no ID and cannot use library services. You may also need ID to enter government buildings like this one, in fact, that we're here in today. And it is a little bit ironic that if you did not have ID, you would not be able to take part in this conversation. Bill 26 seeks to enhance access to photo cards and birth certificates in the province for marginalized and vulnerable individuals. The bill, if passed, would amend the Photo Card Act 2008 to provide fee waivers for individuals who cannot afford to pay the fees required for photo cards. The bill would also amend the Vital Statistics Act to include fee waivers for individuals who cannot afford to pay the fees required for birth certificates. Mr. Speaker, there are varying amounts attached to getting government ID issues replaced. For example, an Ontario birth certificate, an Ontario photo ID can cost $35. An individual who is seeking a new health card or driver's license will need to present other forms of identification in order to get it. An Ontario ID card, driver's license, and birth certificate are on the list of acceptable pieces of documentation. And by waiving fees associated with replacing ID cards, this bill will serve to enhance access to all pieces of identification for vulnerable individuals in communities all across this province. There are precedents for this solution. In 2003, the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, the Divisional Court, ruled that failure to waive small claims court fees for vulnerable individuals with a demonstrated inability to pay and who also had meritorious cases for a fee waiver violated both the common law of access to court and the rule of law. The Ontario Court of Appeal, the Federal Court, and other provincial courts followed suit. Critically, these legal precedents recognize the right of reasonable access to justice. Bill 26 builds a similar case. Other precedents include name changes for residential school survivors as part of Ontario's acknowledgement of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The Landlord and Tenant Board can also waive fees for an applicant seeking to launch a claim. An important question is precisely how one would go about defining cases where an individual cannot afford to pay. From a technical standpoint, waivers may potentially apply to individuals living below the poverty line. However, it is important that we continue to listen and engage with service providers that have the on-the-ground experience. They play a critical role in advocating on behalf of those in crisis or who are forced to, with especially difficult circumstances. People like Chris McBride from Street Health Kingston and all of his incredible colleagues who work at the Kingston Community Health Centre, who work tirelessly every single day and who have seen numerous people in these precarious circumstances, will no doubt have a lighter load should this bill pass. Studies show that low-income members of the community are disproportionately susceptible to losing their government-issued identification or having it stolen. For example, street-involved people face the harsh reality of having their belongings stolen while they're sleeping. In addition to the associated fees, replacing identification can be a very challenging and lengthy process, and it can be problematic, for example, if health care is needed on an urgent basis. There are often cases of domestic violence where the perpetrator will withhold the victim's wallet and identification as a tactic to lure that person back into the home or to force them to not leave in the first place. Victims of domestic violence are then obliged to weigh the costs of living without identification against the risk of harm to themselves and their children. Many choose to leave their IDs and consequently their lives behind. There is a wonderful opportunity as well to collaborate with the federal government on this bill as well, as we do everything possible to ensure that inmates are released into our communities in the best possible circumstances. You need a birth certificate to get a SIN card. Without a SIN card, you cannot be employed. I would like to thank the representative from Corrections Canada and Kingston and the Islands who reached out already to start that discussion. Mr. Speaker, our office has received an outpouring of support from law students, legal professionals, social workers, legal clinics, women's shelters, numerous other service providers, and concerned community members from across Ontario and Canada. Obtaining or replacing ID and consequently being denied services can be an especially stressful and challenging situation for all involved. While many service organizations throughout the province work to alleviate this financial barrier and stress, they are relying on portions of their own budgets or external donations to financially support clients who require identification on a case-by-case basis. If this bill is passed, these organizations will not have to spend their resources in this way. Currently, staff from these organizations spend their precious time trying to help clients who do not have an identification get the services that they need. One such example is access to a bank account. Not having ID is very problematic for those who rely on Ontario Disability Support Program. ODSP payments are normally issued through direct deposit, and clients without access to a bank are in a precarious position. Staff do their best to ensure that clients receive the funds in a timely and efficient manner. And there are countless other examples. Madam Speaker, this past Monday I sponsored a Youth Homelessness Day, Lobby Day in partnership with the United Way, and we had a fascinating discussion about upstream interventions, and we also heard from youth advocates who survived homelessness and are now champions within this community. A common issue facing homelessness is lost or stolen ID. This becomes very problematic, especially for those seeking jobs. We need to make sure that we do everything for our youth and everyone who is without ID that we possibly can, and to alleviate this hardship. By waiving the fees, Bill 26 can make a tremendous difference. It will help ensure that youth do not have to face yet another obstacle. This bill recognizes these challenging circumstances, and it would not be possible, once again, without the help of the Queen's legal aid students and the staff who participated in advancing it. So I again want to thank you so much for that. And I hope that it receives the support today from all members in this House. It's very important that this bill passes. Thank you, everyone.